Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Maine SBDC webinar. Today, we are going over tracking for your business. So like choosing the best method that works for you. And we have Maine SBDC business advisor, Tina Oddleifson, who's gonna guide us through different options for tracking your business information. Digital ones, desktop options, everything to get you the information you need to submit your taxes and all of the other fun things that come later with owning your own business. So we'll be using the chat feature today to submit any questions you have. We'll definitely have time for Q&A towards the end, but if you have anything along the way, feel free to plug it in there. Also, feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know maybe what business you have or what industry you're in or what part of the state you're at. And you will also later receive a follow-up email from me that will include the slides from today's presentation and a link to the recording. So don't feel you have to take intricate notes. All of the information will be sent to you afterwards, and you'll be able to rewind the video and check on anything that you had questions on for that. It'll also include all of our contact information. So if you're not familiar, we are the Maine Small Business Development Centers, and we are here to help with any small business needs you may have. Any questions, concerns, suggestions. We have free confidential business advising provided to the business owners of Maine. And Tina Oddleifson is one of those business advisors. So if you enjoy today's presentation, you can reach out and get set up with a business advisor. If you're in the Portland area, we can set you up with Tina. And like I said, all of that contact information will be in our follow-up email. Otherwise, I think we're ready to get started. So I'll pass it over to Tina.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending. My name is Tina Oddleifson, as Kelsey said, and I sit at USM in Portland as a business advisor. And we are here today to talk about tracking your business and various options for doing that. So I'm going to share out my screen and get the presentation going. This will take about 40 minutes or so, so plenty of time for questions at the end. And the point of this is that we talk to a lot of businesses who need some method for tracking, and there isn't any one right method that's going to be good for everybody. It all depends on your particular situation, your budget, the type of business you have. So we're going to be going over all of those options. I wanted to first start out with what may be the obvious question, but why? Why are you tracking your business? And it's worth just revisiting for a moment. Obviously, everyone needs to report their business activity to the IRS. If you make $400 or more from a business activity, then you actually need to report that. So in the carrot and stick equation, that's really kind of the stick. But the second reason is what's more important in my mind, which is being able to answer fundamental questions about your business that happen every single day. As business owners, you need to answer questions like, can I afford to hire someone? Can I take out a loan to grow my business? Are certain parts of my business more profitable than other parts of my business? And is even what I'm doing, is it sustainable? And the only way that you can answer those questions is through three major financial statements. That's the profit and loss, which most people are familiar with, tracks your profit and loss over a course of a year. A balance sheet, which is essentially the net worth statement of your business, and a cash flow statement, which tracks cash in and out of your bank account. So you want to make sure that you don't run out of cash. So those are the tools that we have to answer those fundamental questions. And there are ways to get that information through financial reports. And then finally, if you ever intend to ask for a loan or apply for a grant or maybe get an equity investor in your business, you're going to need to produce these financial statements. Certainly over the last year, almost 2 years now, we as SBDC advisors in Maine have helped literally hundreds of businesses access emergency funding due to COVID. And one of the big lessons out of this whole experience has been that those businesses who did not have a good system in place for tracking their business were unable to produce these basic financial statements. So they didn't have digital copies of tax returns, couldn't produce an up-to-date financial profit and loss statement. Some of these required balance sheets, and it was tough to see, but those folks basically were unable to access the funding. So, hopefully we're not going to have an economic disruption like COVID again for a long time, but it is another major reason why you need to have a good up-to-date system in place. So, everybody's in a different situation. So when I talk to business owners, often the first question is budget. Everybody has a different budget, from little to nothing to something bigger. So that's a big piece of this equation when deciding what to use. The second major piece of information that you need to ask yourself is, can your accountant accept whatever format you're going to be giving the numbers to them in? So for example, if you use an accountant to do your taxes at the end of the year, the idea is you do your own bookkeeping, you give the data to them, and they do your taxes. But you want to have that conversation with them to make sure that the system you're using is something that they can actually open. Another major consideration is what stage of growth you're in. You may be at the beginning stages of your business, but and not have a huge budget, but if you think you're going to be growing and you're going to be adding staff and products and services, then you may want to choose something that's going to grow with you. And then another consideration is the industry that you're in. If you are in an industry that tracks inventory, then you're going to need a certain kind of software program. If you need to collect all kinds of data on your customers and subscriptions that they might have, then that's a different kind of industry, and a different type of tracking tool might be needed. And similarly, and related to that, is your integrations. We all use lots of different kinds of software to manage our businesses, and ideally you find an accounting system that those integrations, those software programs can integrate with. So if you have a POS system because you have a restaurant or a retail store, or maybe you're selling a product across multiple platforms like Etsy or Amazon, you're using a credit card processor like Square, or maybe you accept Venmo or PayPal. And then if you have payroll, that's another software program. So ideally, you want to find a way to integrate as much of that data into your accounting system so that you don't have to, do that manually. So those are some of the things you need to first think about, and just to think about your individual situation. Similarly to that, just to get into a little bit more detail, these are 3 different kinds of businesses and the kinds of things that they might need to track. So for example, if you're a freelancer of any type, or just a self-employed individual like a designer or a consultant, an artist, you may have some very tracking needs. You send out invoices a couple of times a month. You have just a few financial transactions in a month for your income and taxes at the end of the year with that information, and that's all you need. That's a very different kind of need and a very different kind of solution than someone who might, for example, own a landscaping company. Landscaping companies are service businesses, but they also sell products. They might have, for example, somebody who would sign up for weekly landscaping services like lawn services. So they need a system where they're going to be able to manage customer data and understand the subscriptions that someone would have. In a situation like this, they also may need to run specific sales reports by customer type, to figure out, are my residential customers more profitable than my commercial customers? And another thing they might need to track are actual projects. So for example, if you did an installation of something like a large garden in this example, you want to be able to track time and material to a particular customer or to a particular job. So you need to look at that as one of your needs. And then finally, at a certain point in your history, you may also want to start tracking what's called accounts payable and receivable. This is just an accounting term that I know can confuse people. It's also associated with something called accrual-based accounting. And all it means is inputting data about your business that's a little bit more broader. So for example, instead of just recording an expense when you write a check, instead you get a bill and you put that information into the system, and you don't pay it yet, but you want to track it because it's telling you some important information about your business. For example, say you brought in $25,000 worth of sales in a month, and but you had $15,000 worth of bills sitting in a desk drawer. If that hadn't been entered in some way into your system, you really don't have a good financial picture of your business. So you may need to have a function called accounts payable. The flip side of that is accounts receivable. When you send an invoice to someone, you want to record that immediately as income, whether you actually received the money yet, because you provided the service or you sold the product, and you want to track that in your system. So some systems will have that functionality and some won't. Another example is like a brick and mortar store, like a gift shop. If it's established, you might have employees that you need to pay, you might have inventory that you need to track, and also you may want to track things by location in case you have more than one location. Or maybe you're selling online and you're also selling in a store. You need a system that's going to track sales from both sides. So those are just some really basic examples of the type of information that people track in the type of businesses that they have. There's lots more, but you know, as you can see, it's different depending on your unique situation. So when I think about tracking options, in my mind, there's basically three. The first is just to use a simple spreadsheet, and we're going to talk about each of these in more detail. But Google Sheets is a spreadsheet you can use for free with a Google account, or you might have Excel you've purchased with Microsoft Office. That does provide a tool for some very, very basic tracking in some very specific situations, and we'll talk about that. The next major option under the accounting software options is cloud-based accounting. This is by far the most predominant offering in the marketplace. And what it means is it's a web-based software program. So you go to a website that's owned by the software company, and you log in using encrypted login credentials, and you use the software right on the web, on their website, and you are charged a monthly subscription for doing that. This is where most software, accounting software, is moving. There is, though, a third option. It's a hybrid option, and it's when you purchase a desktop software program, just like you know, you used to go to Staples and buy software, or go to a website and download it onto your actual computer and use it from there. What is now available is the ability to do that, but it's bundled with cloud-based services. And the reason for that is really twofold. One is that there's a lot of people out there using desktop software that they purchased, and they don't want to move to just the cloud-based option because they're very, very different interfaces. They look different, they use different terminology, they don't necessarily have the same functionality. So a lot of people really want to keep their desktop software. However, companies like QuickBooks, you know, one of the major players in the US market, has discovered that the monthly subscription services makes them a lot more money. So what they've done is they're allowing you to purchase desktop, but you have to pay a monthly fee for it, and they're adding on additional cloud-based services like automatic backups and automatic updates. So there is this third hybrid option, and there may be some really good reasons for using it that we'll talk about. But as of about a month ago, you could, at least with QuickBooks, which is, as I said, one of the big players in the US, you can no longer purchase just a desktop software program from them, which is too bad. But that's the way it is. So let's talk quickly about spreadsheets, because I think spreadsheets can be a really good option for that person who's a freelancer, doesn't have employees, just has a few customers that they bill maybe once or twice a month, and they don't need a lot of sophisticated tracking, but they don't have a budget. So this can be a good option. Again, you can use Google Sheets for free. It's cloud-based only, so you have to use it on the web, or you can use Excel on your desktop and on the web. Not a good solution if you think you're going to be growing over time, because your needs are going to expand and spreadsheets are not going to be able to grow much with you. But there's two ways to use them. One is to just make up your own, and the second one is there are some sources out there for pre-formatted spreadsheets that you can actually download for a low cost. So I'm going to show you two of those. So first, this is my version of a simple spreadsheet. All I've done is created an income tab, an expense tab, and an invoice tab. And all it is I'm putting in my transactions by, when they happen. And when I refer to financial transactions, I'm talking about checks, deposits, purchasing equipment, getting loans, anything that comes in and out of bank and credit card accounts and affects the value of your business. So you know what, you can just put that in, go by date, say what it was for, track the sales tax and the fees associated with it if you're selling online, or if credit card fees, maybe some notes about what it was for, and then just add it up for your tax reporting. On the expense side, same thing, do it by date, put in the vendor, what it was for. But in this case, if you're using this kind of a tracking tool, you're probably what's called a Schedule C filer. Schedule C is a tax form that people who are solopreneurs, sole proprietors, single member LLCs are typically using this form when they file their taxes. So if you are one of those people, what I would suggest you do is you look at the Schedule C and you look at exactly the expense categories that are being used by the Schedule C and use those categories. And then at the end of the year, you can just sort the entire spreadsheet so that like expenses are together and subtotal them, and then you've essentially created your Schedule C. So that is the most simple thing you can use. It's better than paper and pencil and throwing receipts into a file to give to your accountant, and can be a good way just to get started. Another option is something a little bit more sophisticated, sorry about that. This is a spreadsheet that I found online, and I downloaded it for $4. And it's actually pretty sophisticated, but still it's going to have limitations because it is a spreadsheet. But what this is you can just rename your months, and you track your income and expenses by month. And you input your transactions by date, and then you put them in a column based on what they are. So if you were putting money into your business bank account from your personal bank account, that would be an owner's deposit or an investment of capital. Money in, you can change these out and basically, make your own income categories if you want to track certain types of income. So if I'm a potter, say, and I want to track bowls and coffee mugs and plates, I can do that. And then when it comes to expenses, you just kind of slide down and you can track your costs of goods sold, which is just a fancy name for direct expenses associated with your mostly products, but you can do it for services. So for a potter, that's the clay and the glaze, and so you can change all these names. Or it's an operating expense basically, and you can change these categories for whatever operating expenses you might have, or you use the Schedule C expenses. And at the end, there's a tab that creates a profit and loss statement for you. It's by month, and summaries, there's a year, and it also creates a balance sheet. So, you know, for $4 and free Google Sheets, it's a pretty cheap way to track your business. Again, that's more sophisticated than, you know, the spreadsheet I showed you before, and also better than certainly for pebbles and files. The caution people about using this spreadsheet. It's really simple to overwrite a formula. Formulas that say add up this column, add up that column. If you accidentally, you know, there's a formula up here. If you accidentally typed in there, you would erase the formula. So if you don't know that you've done that, you could end up with some really bad data. So I recommend these just as in a very cautionary way. There's a lot of things that they will not do for you, but if you're looking for a cheap way just to start, this can be a good source. And I'm going to share the place that I got this. But really, I think at some point you're going to want to consider accounting software. So we're going to talk about that the rest of the time. So what does accounting software do for you that a spreadsheet wouldn't? Lots and lots of things. So when it comes to financial tracking and reporting, all of them are going to produce profit and loss statements, balance sheets, cash flow statements. A lot of them will offer budgeting tools where you can budget, you know, make your own budget and track it. One of the biggest things that they do, though, is they allow you to connect to your bank and credit card accounts so that the transactions from those sources flow directly into your software. And all you have to do is categorize them. So that is a lot less work. They also act as a filing system for your receipts because, you know, if you're ever audited, you have to provide the receipts that back up your transactions. All of these systems allow you to upload pictures of receipts or allow you to forward emails that have receipts attached to them, and they will connect it to the transaction. So they can act as a massive filing system for you. The other thing they allow you to do is manage your customers, your vendors, your products, and your services. So what that means is they all allow you to create invoices and put whatever it is you sell on that invoice with the, you know, pre-formatted with the prices already included, and also sales receipts that you might give to somebody. They all allow you to track accounts payable by putting those bills in, even if you don't pay them right away, as well as purchase orders. They allow you to create estimates for people and then turn that into an invoice if you have a business where you do that kind of work. Many of them will track inventory. Many of them will track projects like we talked about earlier, or locations if you sell online and in a store. You can manage customer and vendor data. So if you need to export a list of emails and do some email marketing, you can do it, you know, through this database. And again, it allows you to list your actual products and services and manage them in a kind of in an organized way. The other thing that these accounting software programs are going to do for you for additional costs are provide payroll services, credit card processing. Many of them provide bookkeeping services, so you actually get virtual with you pay for that service. They allow you to integrate with all these other software programs, some more successfully than others. And if you happen to sell online and you sell internationally, you can also manage multiple currencies. So there's a lot of additional functionality, and it's also, you know, software where you can certainly make mistakes, but you're not going to be overwriting actual formulas. So there's no danger of screwing something up in a big way like you can with a spreadsheet. So let's talk about just this cloud-based option, which is kind of the biggest option in the marketplace. The pro or the advantage of using this software is that you can access it from anywhere using anything. You can use your phone, you can use a tablet, a desktop, doesn't matter, and you can use any operating system, Mac or PC. Again, there's this automatic syncing with your bank and credit card accounts. Some of them have actual phone applications where you're at a store, you take a picture of a receipt of something you just purchased. It uploads into your software and creates the transaction for you. Another one will actually turn on when it senses that your car is moving and ask you if you're going on a business trip, and then it will upload that mileage. It will track the mileage and upload it into your software. Another major advantage is that your accountant, and if you have a bookkeeper, can access your software, and they're looking at the same file that you're using, which is a huge advantage. You know, you can hire an outside bookkeeper and they can easily help you with your books when you're online. Same with accountants. If you have just a desktop version, you have to, export a copy of your file. You have to get it to your accountant in a secure way. Then you're working on 2 separate copies, and that gets a little sticky. So the database is using this file. And again, this integration with other applications is more easily done with cloud-based software than with desktop. And then a lot of times you can't integrate with the desktop version. The major drawbacks, and they're not insignificant, and especially here in Maine, is that you need to have a reliable internet connection, high speed, to use the software. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty frustrating. And that can be a serious barrier for a lot of sections of the state. So that is a consideration for you to think about first. And unfortunately, the cloud-based are subscription-based, so it does, a lot of times it doesn't look like it's costing you a lot on a monthly basis, but it does add up to a lot by the end of the year, and it's something you're paying for every year. So those are the kind of the drawbacks. But let's talk about what the options are. And I'm also going to be providing you with a spreadsheet that compares all of these different options, so you can have that in one format. QB stands for QuickBooks. If you haven't heard of QuickBooks, it is the largest. They have the largest portion of the U.S. market for small business accounting software. They've been around for several decades. They have many different products, which can be very confusing when you go onto their website. So hopefully this will help you a little bit. The first one is called QuickBooks Self-Employed. It is a standalone software program. You can't move your books from this program to their other programs. So that's something to keep in mind. If you start it, you're kind of stuck with it. But it is a great option for people who are freelancers, self-employed people, and Schedule C filers, like we talked about earlier. It's categories offered in this software tie into the Schedule C, and they will produce the Schedule C for you. The drawback of that is that you don't have a chart of what's called a chart of accounts, which is basically your list of categories for income, expenses, assets, liabilities. And that can be really limiting when it comes to reporting. You also can't manage your customers, your products, your services, your vendors very well. You have places to put that information, but not manage that information. But again, designed for a freelancer. You can actually use your personal bank account with this software, which is something that we as SBDC advisors never recommend that you do. You ideally open a separate business bank account, but if you are using your own bank account, when the transactions come into the software, when you connect it to your bank account, you can say, oh, this is personal and this is business, and it will keep them separate. It costs you $180 a year to use this, which is $15 a month. The second major piece of cloud-based software offered by QuickBooks is called QuickBooks Online. It's there's four subscription levels. They start at something called Simple Start, and then it goes to Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. And the prices are $300, $600, $960, and over $1,000 a year to use for the Advanced. So this is, an expensive option. The difference between QuickBooks and all the other options I'm going to show you is their subscription levels increase in price with functions. So if you need a particular function, like you need to track your income and expenses by location, you have to buy a higher level of the software to do that. If you need to track inventory, you have to buy a higher level of the software. They're the only ones that really do it like that, but something that you should be aware of. Because QuickBooks has such a large part of the market, every accountant that you're gonna probably run into uses a QuickBooks product. So they will know what you're giving them when you give them a file. At the same time, you also have tons and tons of sources for learning the software. There's free videos on YouTube, there's chat groups, there's lots of instructional videos from QuickBooks itself. So they are kind of the behemoth here, but there are some really good reasons to use it. But we're going to look at some competitors here, because what's happening in the marketplace is, because these are programs that are cloud-based, you can access them from any country. So another option is an option called FreshBooks. It's very similar to QuickBooks. It's a Canadian company. You can see that their pricing is almost exactly the same, but the difference is that their pricing increases with the number of billable clients that you have. So the more invoices you send out, the more you have to pay. But that's different than functions. So it might be a decent option for you. People are very excited about this option called Wave. It is the only free option in the marketplace. They make their money by those added services like payroll, bookkeeping, credit card processing, just like the other companies do, but they are offering a free version of their software. It started out as an invoicing application and then grew to be more of an accounting application. It's actually legitimate. It's a Canadian company, and it's owned by Merrill Lynch. It's pretty easy to use, and they have very, very good documentation. They have a whole guide that you can download, and they really explain accounting to you. The limitation here is that it's not as robust in its features as QuickBooks or even FreshBooks. So it's the way I look at Wave is that it's a great alternative to a spreadsheet. It's a really good alternative if you tend to do a lot of invoicing. But over time, this might not be the best option for you. And also, you want to talk to your accountant, because they may or may not use Wave. So, but it's free, so can't go wrong there. And then finally, the last cloud-based software program I want to mention is called Xero. This is widely used in New Zealand and Australia and the EU. It's designed, like all of these options, are designed for small business owners who don't really know accounting. So it's easy to use. Their pricing, like FreshBooks, increases with the not only the number of invoices you create, but the number of bills that you put in. So the more activity you have, the more you pay. So some very good options there. And you have to ask yourself again, does my accountant use it? Does it have all the functions that I'm going to need? Is it a software program that I can grow with? It's really important to ask yourself. And then finally, this hybrid version I mentioned. So again, with QuickBooks, there's something called QuickBooks Pro and QuickBooks Enterprise. These are desktop software programs that up until a month ago, you could still go to Staples, buy the program, or download it from QuickBooks itself, use it on your desktop, and use it for several years. You paid for it once, it's done. But now you do have to do a yearly subscription and bundle it with a few cloud services like backups and automatic updates. But the price is still pretty good, and there's some good reasons to use this. $350 a year actually gets you way more functions than the cloud-based version of QuickBooks, because with the desktop version, you get a lot of those functions like inventory tracking or tracking by location that you would actually be paying $600 a year to get. However, you can't, you don't have all those cloud-based cool integrations like, the mobile app, the ability to snap pictures of receipts and upload them to create a transaction. So that it's limited. There's also Mac and PC versions of the software that you have to use. But another really important thing to know is that if you are somebody who tracks multiple business activities, like say you have 2 different side gigs happening and you report on them separately to the IRS, if you use QuickBooks Pro Plus or QuickBooks Enterprise Plus, you can have as many companies, you can track as many companies as you want with that software. If you use the cloud-based software, you have to pay for a new subscription for each business that you track, and that could get very expensive. So if you are somebody that does track multiple businesses, or maybe there's more than one person in your household who has a business, you can both share the same software. Typically, the desktop version of QuickBooks is a very much more of what I would call a traditional accounting interface. It uses a lot of traditional accounting terms. It can look a little overwhelming when you first try to learn it, but it's funny, people who use the desktop version find the online version to be really confusing. So I think it's really just what you start with that will make sense to you. But it's a very solid option for a good price, even with a subscription service. And but bear in mind, it doesn't have all the advantages that cloud-based software has. The only other comparison that I could find to QuickBooks, this combination hybrid situation, is Sage. Sage is a very large British software company. They have lots of different products, but the product that they create for small businesses is called Sage 50. And even though these companies are, in different parts of the world, they have US versions of all this software, just so you're aware, that uses US dollars. And their pricing is a little bit better. Again, drawback here might be that your accountant doesn't use it. Sage is pretty big in the market, so there's a chance that they will, but that's why it's so important to talk to your accountant first. So this is the spreadsheet that I created. I'm not going to go through it, but it basically lists everything with, whether it's cloud-based or desktop or both, and just some notes and some things for you to consider when deciding what might work for you. And in addition to that, there is a resource page here. If you really want a super simple solution like a spreadsheet, but you've never used spreadsheets before, there is a great resource in Maine called the Digital Equity Center. They provide free training on all kinds of different software, and they'll do that both online, and I think they're going back to some in-person training as well. But it's a great resource to just learn the software, and then you can go and set up a free Google account and have a totally free option. And then that link below there is where I got that pre-formatted spreadsheet. And again, I can't necessarily endorse that spreadsheet, other than it seems to work and the calculations seem to be correct, but you'll want to really check that out first. With all of the different options for cloud-based and the combination desktop cloud-based, you have the option to either try it for free or take what's called a test drive. If you have the option to take a test drive, that's much better, because what that means is they're providing a dummy business for you to go in and use so that you can run actual financial reports, you can create invoices, you can use it like it's your business. When you have a try it free option, what that means is that you have to put your own data into the software, so that, it's kind of a hook to get you to use the software. I don't recommend connecting your bank accounts when you're just trying it out, but you do have that option. Obviously with Wave, it's totally free. You just go create an account. With QuickBooks Online, they do have that test drive, which is so great, but QuickBooks Self-Employed is a try it free option. The only other company that has the test drive option is Sage. So there's lots of ways to try it out before you buy. And if you still are really unclear about what to use and how to use it, then please give us a call. We have 20 advisors throughout the state, and we're all happy to help you figure out what might work for you. I'm what's called a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, so I can help you set up QuickBooks cloud-based software, and if you have questions about how to use it, I'm happy to do that. But any of the advisors can help you through this. So that is the presentation, and like I said, you'll get the slides so that you can actually go out and do some more exploration on your own. But Kelsey, why don't you let me know if there's any questions, and we can go from there because we have plenty of time. And I'm also happy if anybody wants to take you to the website to show you some of these test drives and how to access them if you want.
Well, thank you. That was great. We do have 2 questions in the chat that are pretty specific and pretty long. So Paul's saying, hi, Tina, I just bought QuickBooks Desktop from Best Buy for approximately $250 last month when he got a new computer. He's asking, are you saying that he needs to pay a monthly subscription on top of that? Because he wasn't aware of that. So that
no, if you were, it was about a month ago that QuickBooks, basically you can't get that just the desktop version. If you were able to snag just the desktop version, that's fabulous. You can use it just as it is. You can use it for 3 years before they force you to upgrade. If you're using additional services like payroll, you have to upgrade, but if you're not, you could use it for quite a long time. So, and if you got it for $250, that's really good, because usually it's about closer to 400. So, so that sounds like you got a great deal.
All right. Well, that seems like good news for Paul. He says thanks.
Yeah.
And then Anne is saying she just bought Quicken 2021. It has CDs, and she specifically looked for non-subscription software, and is hoping that it is as advertised. That was hard to say.
The only thing I would say about Quicken is that it's actually not a business accounting software program. It's a personal finance accounting software program. So it's really designed for you to track your personal finances. It's not gonna, there's no chart of accounts that you can, it's just very different, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It is, Tina, this is Anne. It is different, but I've been using it for more than 20 years.
Okay.
And I have altered it according to my needs.
Okay.
And for what I'm doing, it really works just great.
Yeah, well then keep using it. And I know that, QuickBooks used to own that and they sold it. But if it's something that you're comfortable with and you can produce the reports that you need, then that's fine.
Yeah. So, but if it's got this, well, I just looked online when you said what you said, and they do say Quickens is no longer available on, as software. You have to buy a subscription service.
Yeah.
Just like QuickBooks. I don't know. Hopefully what I bought is in fact the software and I can use it for a few years. But anyway, but if, at some point, I really am opposed to doing the subscription service. What would be something that you could suggest I could move to that would not be subscription service?
So what kind of a business do you have, Anne?
I have a hospitality business, and then I have a little service business. I actually do two things. One is a social work service, and the other thing is, it's more retail.
Okay. Do you report those separately to the IRS?
Yes, I do.
I think maybe your best option in that situation, Anne, is going to be QuickBooks desktop, but you're not going to be, you will have to pay an annual fee to use it. Right now it's about $350, because if you go on QuickBooks website, you're going to find that you have to get what's called the Pro Plus service. So they, unlike the previous person who said they purchased it and were able to just get the software, if you go to the QuickBooks website, you do have to purchase it and bundle it with some cloud services, but it is still a good cost-effective option, and it does allow you to track multiple businesses, whereas if you went to QuickBooks Online, you'd have to pay for 2 subscriptions.
Right, right.
Yeah, so the desktop,
and that's one of the reasons I stuck with Quicken, because I have fixed it so that it tracks all of my different businesses, and I don't have to pay the individual business fees, because I would have to pay 3 times.
Yes, which is prohibitive.
Plus it doesn't keep track of my personal finances.
Yeah.
And I can parse that out. With the system I have, but I can't, I couldn't if I had, QuickBooks, I think. Anyway, so
I think if you want to, if you're eventually going to change, then try to get the desktop version. You will have to pay an annual fee, but it's lower. What I like about the desktop version is that you get all of the functions. You don't have to pay more for functions, which is a little bit irritating that you have to do that. But you will have to pay, unfortunately, an annual fee. I did hear one option, and everybody should know this, is if you work with an accountant who's what's called a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, they may be able to purchase the desktop version for you without that that cloud-based edition annual fee. So if you're working with an accountant, ask them if they can purchase QuickBooks desktop for you, and just the standalone software, because I believe that will still be an option. Most people wouldn't know that, but I believe that's an option. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And if you were to show us one of the test drive things, if we had time, I would think that would be interesting.
Sure.
Because eventually we're going to have to switch.
Eventually you're going to have to switch, and there's lots of options out there, and they're getting increasingly confusing. And when you go to QuickBooks website, they are desperately trying to sell you just cloud-based software, because they do make the most money from that.
I'm sure.
What you do is you just QuickBooks and Sage are the two where you can get an actual test drive, and you go to quickbooks.intuit.com, you go to the Why QuickBooks, and you go to test drive, and you just tell them you're not a robot. And I really like this because they have set up a dummy company that's a landscaping company that sells services and products. And so then you can just go in here and you can, go to the reporting section and look at running reports, and, see how that works and how they look. You can go in and create an invoice, manage your customers, see what that looks like. You can create an invoice. It just gives you a sense of what this is like. The interface for this cloud-based software is very, very different than the desktop. And what QuickBooks says is, in all of these companies really are trying to do, is create software that busy small business owners can use easily without knowing a lot about accounting. So this online version is a lot is happening in the background, but it's kind of an easy way to understand how to use it. But if you purchase the desktop or you purchase the online, I would really take the time to watch some videos or work with an SBDC advisor to help you understand it, because there are some important features to understand. For example, I'll give you a good one that I've run into several times. When you create an invoice and you send it to a customer, so your products and services are here. That's what's kind of neat. We'll just choose gardening, and we gave it $500. There we go. And then we're gonna, I can't send it because this is a dummy, but say you're sending this out to a customer and you're sending it by email. What happens in the background, because an invoice is an actual accounting function, it's going to add that $500 to your income in your profit and loss statement. A lot of people don't understand that, and then they get the check from the customer and they add it in as a deposit, and they don't connect it to an invoice, and they've double booked the income, so that it looks like they made twice as much money. I see that a lot. So you have to know, a little bit, and same with the desktop version. I've seen people use it and they kind of choose accounts from the chart of accounts that sound right, but they're not familiar with the chart of accounts. So, either have a bookkeeper help you set it up for the first time. As I said, there's so many videos out there for free. You can take entire classes for free on how to use the software by going to YouTube. But do take the time, because you can get yourself into trouble.
Can you go to the taxes section? I want to see what that looks like.
Sure. Let's see. This one has, there's a sales tax function. So if you sell a product that gets taxed, you can set that up, and it will pull it into a liability account on your balance sheet, and then you can pay out of there. This is if you are issuing 1099s to other people. QuickBooks Self-Employed, which is that one for freelancers, they do not, I'm not sure they offer this anymore because I couldn't find it on their website, but if you Google test drive Self-Employed, you might be able to get into a test drive. That's a program that will help you actually file your self-employment taxes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really helpful. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, it doesn't look like they offer it anymore. It's too bad, but yeah, QuickBooks Self-Employed is very helpful when it comes to filing your Schedule C and filing your quarterly self-employment taxes, because it will basically, the program will set it all up for you, which is really nice. And then Wave, I'll just show you Wave real quick. I like Wave. I think it's a good option for somebody who's starting out. It just may not be a long-term option as you grow. But you just have to create an account, and hopefully I still letting me do that. Nope. Well, anyway, you just create your account, and it's very similar. It looks similar to QuickBooks Online, but they've got some great documentation. And I would encourage you to go over here. This might also be an option for you, Anne. Yeah, because you could create multiple accounts for free on here for your different businesses. Yeah. It's just not as robust as QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a much better long-term option than some of these, but as I said, it all depends on your particular business and big you are, how many customers you are, how complicated you are, and what you're trying to track.
Okay. All right.
All right, any more questions, Kelsey?
I didn't see anything else, just thank yous, which I will repeat. Thank you.
Here.
Well done. Thank you everyone for joining us. Yep, so I will send out a follow-up email later with a link to the recording and the presentation and all of our contact information. So if you have any questions at all, you can just respond to that email or request advising through that link.
All right,
But
well, thanks
otherwise-
everybody. Have a good rest of your day.